Hi, I'm Christine from Key Runner Bucksmont, and today we're going to talk about when it's okay for a tenant to break a lease in the state of Pennsylvania. So sometimes a resident might need to break a lease because, life happens. Normally, that's a serious violation of the lease and it's going to attract penalties. But according to Pennsylvania law, there are some justified reasons when a tenant can break that lease without any penalty. So the first and the most obvious reason is if the lease has an early termination clause. So if that clause is included in the lease, the tenant can break it early as long as they meet the conditions. So those conditions usually include paying some kind of a penalty fee and providing 30 days notice. But you should check your lease to see if those conditions are there, because they do vary. The second reason to break a lease is if the tenant is starting active military duty. The Service Members Civil Relief Act gives tenants who are deployed or relocated due to military service a right to break their lease. In Pennsylvania, those service members are going to include Commissioned Corps of the Public Health Service, the Armed Forces, Activated National Guard, and the Commissioned Corps of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So the tenant that's starting the active military duty has to meet certain requirements before they can freely break that lease. They have to show proof that they will stay in the military service for 90 days or more. The lease has to have been signed before they started their active military duty, and they need to notify the landlord and include letters from their commanding officer. So leases that end due to active military service are going to end 30 days following the next rental period's start date. That's a little complicated. So an example is that if notice was given on the 13th of April, but rent is collected at the beginning of the month, then the earliest end date for the lease would be June 1st. The tenant would still need to pay rent for May. The third reason to break a lease early is if the unit is no longer habitable. So the things that make a unit habitable include having safe drinking water, that's running drinking water, having hot water available during the cold season, pest-free premises, well-maintained stairs and railings, properly functioning doors and windows, reasonable protection from criminal intrusion, weatherproofed walls and roofs, and a properly working electrical and plumbing system. If the landlord does not provide those things, especially after repeated requests from the tenant to fix these issues, the unit could be uninhabitable, and the tenant has no further responsibilities to the lease. A fourth reason for an early lease break is if there is landlord harassment. So harassment is illegal in Pennsylvania, regardless of what the tenant might have done. Courts can impose penalties and fines for harassment. The following list are things that can be construed as harassment and should be avoided. Lying about the tenant in order to evict them is harassment. Retaliating against a tenant for exercising their rights, like if they joined a tenants union, that's harassment. Making sexual advances to your tenant, don't do that. Coercing, threatening, or intimidating your tenant, either through a phone call or in person. Don't threaten them, don't intimidate. Making an unreasonable rent increase without proper justification or proper notice. Refusing to take or acknowledge a rent payment. And repeated entry into the unit without serving an advance notice of that entry. You need to avoid doing all of those things, or it could be considered landlord harassment and an early break of the lease would be warranted. So those are the 4 allowable reasons for breaking a lease. But there are some examples that are not allowed. And those include the tenant wants to move into a new home that they bought. Not a good enough reason. They want to relocate because they want to upgrade or downgrade. Not a good reason. They want to move in with a partner. Not a good reason. They want to be closer to family or friends. Also not a good reason. Since those are not allowable reasons to break the lease, penalties could apply. Pennsylvania laws do not require you to mitigate damages by making an effort to re-rent the unit after the tenant breaks their lease, unless of course it says that in the lease. So I want to close with the standard caveat. I am not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Please seek advice from your own attorney who can help to manage your specific situation. And if you own a rental property and you want help managing it, give us a call or visit our website at www.keyrenterbucksmont.com. Thank you.